I'd like to just focus in on today the side effects of medication that's prescribed. So I've been prescribed Cipramil, Citalopram, which is supposed to help for anxiety and depression. And when you get it, in the little box, you get this little leaflet, which is to tell you about the side effects. And you think, it's a little leaflet. It'll be nice and short and sweet, and there'll be nothing to worry about. But not quite. It's quite a comprehensive leaflet, all of the symptoms and side effects which are associated, and it's not easy reading. Now, I'm not recommending that people necessarily read this at first anyway, because it may turn you off. And look, if you need this, and if your doctor has been prescribed it, then you just go ahead and take it. I'm not a doctor, but your doctor is, so all these videos have to say that. Your doctor is your doctor, do whatever he or she says. If you are curious, like me, then this is interesting reading. I think people who have never taken antidepressants before would be kind of shocked to read the side effects. And I'm going to do a separate video on just a review of Citalopram itself. This is just going to deal with the side effects, because that is a huge aspect of these SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. The side effects are a massive issue. They're so big, I think, that it leads to people stopping taking them, which is not ideal. And it certainly happened to me. Some savage side effects from previous SSRIs, not this one, I must hasten to add. And I had to stop. I mean, after 2 or 3 days on one particular medication, left the office, went out into a Marion Square Park, and I burst into tears. I was on a park bench, and I'll never forget it. A homeless guy sat down beside me and put his arm around me and tried to comfort me. And I was just looking at him kind of going, this is the most surreal situation. I mean, how do I even begin to explain what the hell is happening? I was in bits, and I stopped that. Went back to the doctor at the time, and there was this sneering kind of condemnation of the fact that I had stopped it, which is not unusual. That was a previous doctor, which I have no dealings with anymore, thankfully. But I think people will come across that. Doctors prescribing it, and then when you stop because the side effects are killing you, some doctors don't have a particular understanding of that. And I would love to just write a prescription to them and tell them, you go away for 2 weeks and take this shit and see how you get on. I think the most shocking one, and this is the side effects, and they don't know the frequency of this, but the first side effect here is thoughts of harming yourself or thoughts of killing yourself. So suicide ideation, which is just an absolutely bullshit term, really. It's used quite a lot, and it's entered into the lexicon. Almost an insulting term, I think. I think people who know very little about antidepressants and SSRIs would be kind of shocked that one of the side effects, people who are kind of feeling desperate, feeling very low and depressed, that one of the potential side effects is increased risk of suicide. And that is just a shocking reality of these things. And I know people who have attempted suicide after starting antidepressants, and that is just... it's a horrific fact of it. I would say, as a result, if you are considering starting these things, you need to be closely monitored by somebody for the first couple of days. And it's not a very common thing, thankfully. Now, again, just to reiterate, if you need these things, take them. And if you have the side effects, just as long as you have somebody, a close friend or something monitoring you, and your doctor, then you should be fine. But don't take the risk of taking them blindly. But that is a huge issue. Other issues: panic attack, grinding teeth and restlessness, alteration of heart rhythm. That is, sometimes you can get heart palpitations and things like that, which is kind of scary in itself. Very common side effects, and it says for this, more than 1 in 1 people, so more than 10% of people will encounter these ones. So sleepiness, and that's a huge one, and that's definitely the one that I've experienced. It will make you more drowsy and more sleepy, and that is the most serious side effect and the most tricky side effect for me, because for me, part of a holistic treatment in terms of keeping my physical and mental health better is doing lots of exercise and being as active as possible, and something that I've thankfully managed to keep going for all my life so far. One of the side effects of this is sleepiness, and that makes you less inclined to go out there, less inclined to exercise, and that is a vicious circle. Because if you get in that vicious loop, you're less inclined to exercise, and you're staying at home, or maybe staying in bed, worse, going to sleep. Then you're getting less exercise, you're feeling worse, and you're doing more sleep and staying inside more and doing less. So that unfortunately is a big problem with, and that is one issue that I think is a serious issue that we have with prescribing and over prescribing. I think overall I would say, look, these SSRIs are a necessary thing to have, and I think they have helped me. They've helped millions of people across the world, but I think the doses sometimes that are prescribed to people are way too high. Through the community, I mean, I've met people who are, a lot of people who are on 6 or 7 different medications, and that to me doesn't sound right. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give a definitive assessment of that. And as well, the doses, a lot of people are on the maximum dose. You know, an Effexor at 75 or 37 for the minimum, and they're on 10 times that. You know, a lot of people are up to the maximum dose. So it just seems a lot of psychiatrists are just, their attitude is, right, we'll double the dose, double it, double it, double it, double it, double it, until we're at the maximum, can't go any further. And then if it's not working, it's just, okay, we'll add something else in. We'll add a mood stabilizer. We'll double up. We're at maximum of that. We'll put in some Valium. We'll put in an antipsychotic, put in some Xanax on top of that because you're a little bit shaky. People are very quickly on 5 or 6, and then maybe a bit of lithium thrown in there. They're on 5 or 6 medications very quickly, it seems. And that's not uncommon. And I mean, the side effects I get from this alone, I've only ever been on one medication, and the side effects can be quite tough. I can only imagine what the interactions would be between 2 or 3 different medications. Never mind 6. The interactions between those 6 and the side effects combined must be horrific. But sleepiness is the number one, I would think. Difficulty in sleeping, no, I don't have that. I have the opposite. They're the most common side effects, and they both are kind of contradictory. I mean, and I only see the sleepiness side of it. I don't have difficulty in sleeping when I'm on these things. Well, actually, now that I think of it, there has been periods when I have, I suppose, yeah. But I do feel that sleepiness, and that's the main problem. Increased sweating, definitely. And that just leads you to be dehydrated. So one thing I'd advise, if you're taking any SSRI, is to double up or quadruple up your intake of water, because you will be dehydrated from it. It just sucks the water out of you. You will wake up in the morning sweating. It's just a reality. Dry mouth, that's kind of a classic symptom. And I don't experience it that much, but it's one of the common ones. Nausea and headache, yes, at the start, for the first 2 days, 3 days, that when I first took this, yeah, that's common. Nausea and a headache. Be prepared for that. And my advice around that is drink liters of water before you go to bed, even. And I know it's kind of counterintuitive. People don't want to do that, but it will avoid, I guarantee you, it'll avoid that headache in the morning. For the first 2 or 3 days that you start taking this stuff, drown yourself in water, and that will help. Okay, so these are common side effects, which may affect 1 in 10 people. So that's quite common. So decreased appetite. And yeah, I found that. Decreased appetite. It certainly changes your appetite. Agitation, anxiety, and there you have it, the irony of it again, just that it'll increase your anxiety. And I would say the first 2 days, yeah, it can drive you a bit nuts. That's just the reality. And if you're prepared for that, and you just are willing to batten down the hatches and ride through it, you should be fine. The first 2 or 3 days are when that anxiety is at its peak, I think. Nervousness, confused state, abnormal dreams, yeah, definitely. I mean, this is changing the neurochemicals in your brain. So I would say, yeah, what it's doing to your dreams is not surprising. Tremor, tingling or numbness in the hands or feet, I haven't got that. Dizziness, disturbance in attention, yawning, yeah, definitely. That happens, and at higher doses that will happen. I mean, it's connected to the sleepiness, and it's not a pleasant experience yawning all the time, particularly if, like me, your main source of trying to keep your mental health together is exercise. And I think, well, exercise, if you do push yourself out, that will cure the yawning and sleepiness to a degree, so I'd recommend that. And then diarrhea and constipation, so you've got the two extreme ends of it. And that's an interesting one, because and what it proves is the gut-brain connection, and that's something that I'll talk about in another video. And there is fascinating research going on now that there's neurochemicals in your brain, but the other region that they find neurochemicals and neurotransmitters is in your gut. So in your stomach and your intestine is like a second brain in your body, which is just fascinating. So probiotic yogurt and stuff like that can help with your mental health, but as a result, anything that you're doing to affect your brain will affect your gut as well. And it's just fascinating, that connection. And it's a kind of a primal kind of connection between your gut and your brain, and the fact that neurotransmitters would be found in your gut is just incredible. There we have it, fatigue again. So another way of just saying sleepiness, really. Pain in muscle and joints, fever, prickling skin, and decreased weight due to decreased appetite. Yeah, probably experienced that. Uncommon then may affect 1 in 100 people, so 1% of people. So we're kind of now in the uncommon ones. Increased appetite, which is, I mean, this is how ridiculous sometimes these side effects are, the fact that they're contradicting each other in some ways. So 10% of people will see their appetite go down, and 1% of people will see their appetite go up. I'm in the 10% anyway. I've seen the appetite go down. Aggression, I certainly haven't seen that, and I'm surprised at it, because I would have thought the whole thing is kind of I mean, a lot of the effect of these SSRIs is kind of a numbing effect, so I'm surprised that aggression would be there, because it's not stimulating you. I mean, I would have expected that in an SNRI, which is a selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, which is kind of stimulating. But I don't expect it in an SSRI, and I certainly haven't had it. Mania, yeah, so I suppose that is it. If you're bipolar and you're taking these things, or prescribed, that you've basically been prescribed them incorrectly, because you shouldn't be taking them. I mean, these are supposed to try and push you upwards, and if you are going up that way anyway on a bipolar episode and getting high, then this is going to push you even higher. And a lot of people are diagnosed with depression first, and then maybe they find out that it's bipolar later. So I'm surprised that it isn't picked up. Fainting, enlarged pupils, fast heartbeat, slow heartbeat. Fast heartbeat, slow heartbeat. I don't know. I mean, it's black humor. It's hard not to laugh at some of these things. But nettle rash, light sensitivity. Yeah, and then rare 1 in 1,000 people, convulsions, hepatitis. Jeez, my God. Okay. There are the side effects of citalopram. Overall, for me, the side effects are mostly drowsiness, and that's basically it. I mean, it's one side effect really. It's drowsiness, sleepiness, and that is the main number one side effect, and that's the one I'd expect everybody probably to experience. And that might seem like a small one, but if that is one of the big problems that you have anyway, then it can be quite difficult to cope with, because part of my problem sometimes is, I mean, I love exercise, I love getting out swimming, running, cycling, stuff like that, and if you are sapped of energy, then, as I said before, you can get caught in that vicious cycle, and thankfully I break out of it almost all the time, and I push myself to get out there, and I think that's vital. Look, overall, as I say, I can't advise you anyway, one way or the other, but if your doctor advises you to take these things, you should. I think the most benefit is from people, for these things, these SSRIs, is for people who are taking nothing and need a small dose. That's my experience. I think there are probably a lot of people out there who have never taken SSRIs or antidepressants, and kind of out of stubbornness or stuff like that, or are critical about them, and they could do with them. They could benefit massively, and I think everybody who's suffering should at least try them for a month or two anyway, to see, because they might change your life. I think the other side of it then is, and it's a valid concern, is where people are over medicated. It's where people have been taking them for 10, 20 years and they're at a maximum dose, and they're on 5 or 6 other medications. And that's where the valid criticism of medication comes in, because and I share those criticisms. It's just people are over medicated, but there are people who are under medicated, and a small amount of SSRIs could help you. So look, I hope this has helped, and if it can help somebody, then by all means do. And if you want to share your experience, pop it in the comments. Thank you.